Americanism is exceptional, and all cultures are not created equal. It's time that not only should we stop overusing the term racism and calling anything we don't like racist, but we need to stop misusing the term racism. Saying that another culture is not as good as yours, or that another culture does not lead to as much thriving or as good ideals as yours, is not racism. You see, culture is chosen. Culture is something that we consciously choose and we build, not like race. Race is something you're born with. Sex is something you're born with. Age is something you're born with. These are why we have laws that I think are justified against sexual discrimination, against racial discrimination, and against ageism, against age discrimination. These are because these are things that if you're an atheist or an evolutionary theorist, you would believe that nature gives to you. And if you're a theist of any kind, you would believe that God or gods give to you. Either way, they are inherent to who you are. I was born with this skin color. I was born with this DNA. I was born at this age, and I didn't choose any of those things, and thus I shouldn't be discriminated against for them. But you can absolutely judge me for my choices or for my culture. And this is such an odd thing that we see where people are so hesitant to call other cultures not as good, or to say that our culture is great, or to say that all cultures are not created equal. People all of a sudden throw up the racism card. That's not racism. Culture is chosen. Culture has nothing to do with DNA or skin color or any of that stuff. It's entirely a conscious ideological choice, and you can absolutely judge people for their choices. Now, this is an odd critique that the left has, and an odd baseless claim, because we see that many leftist organizations like Nike and others brag about their company culture. They brag about what they believe sets them apart as a company. So why is that true of companies, but not of countries? And let's take this a step further. I would actually argue that everybody believes in their heart that not all cultures are created equal, even though they try to grandstand and claim a moral high ground by throwing out the racism card when they hear someone else say so. Here's how I can prove it to you. If you're a leftist or a centrist who disagrees with me, I think you'll probably agree with me in about 30 seconds. Were the cultures of Nazism, of the racist South before slavery ended, or of Stalinism when he was killing millions and millions of his own people in Russia, were those cultures equal to the culture that we have in the West today, or the culture that Europe has today, or any of the other free cultures around the world? Were those cultures just as good, just as legitimate, just as valuable, just as morally right, just as profitable as what we have built today with some of our movements like the Me Too movements and some of these other social justice movements, some of which I agree with, some of which I don't? We have these justice movements today, and we have freed slaves, and we have fought against Nazis, and we have fought against communism. All of these things that imprisoned or killed millions of people. Were those cultures just as good as what we've created today? If so, I think you've really backed yourself into a corner where you've got to justify, how do you call something good? How do you call something prosperous? What is the measuring stick that you have? If that's a hill you want to die on, that's the argument you want to make, you then have to answer why those cultures I listed and other cannibalistic cultures, other rape-based, misogynistic-based cultures, why are they just as good as what we live with now here today? I don't think that they are. I think you can absolutely judge a culture based on its choices, and not all cultures are created equal. That's why I'm proud to be an American. We have not always gotten it right, but I think the culture that we have strived for historically, the culture that led hundreds of thousands of free white men to take up arms and fight on behalf of their black brethren who they believed should be free, that culture is a good culture. It stood up and it self-corrected. It corrected the bad that sprung up because, like I said, no one's perfect. American culture is not perfect, but I do believe that Americanism, American culture, is the best culture that the world has ever seen. That's all for now, guys. Take it easy. Have a nice day.